Logical evening, everyone, and welcome to the next in the Gladiator series. Today, we discuss the English section of VMTC228. Now, if I look at this particular Gladiator series that we have had, this is something that we have curated from, from a lot of sources, and we have made this particular series keeping in mind the end result that we want. Okay, now coming on to today's CLAT that we are looking at mock. Now, frankly speaking, this would have sounded quite difficult to a few students. Mostly, I'll put it in the moderate category. Now, you will find it difficult only and only if you are not into smart reading. Now, we need to understand that there are very few questions that I can scan and skim and answer those directly. The only one I can solve is by scanning is the vocabulary based question. What is the meaning of such and such word in the context of the passage? I can go scan for that word, look at that sentence and can, find out the meaning. So ये सब चीजें हो जाएगी. अगर मेरे पास सेंट्रल आइडिया वाला क्वेश्चन है तो देन मेरे रिग्रेशन जब होगा उसमें फर्स्ट एंड लास्ट पैराग्राफ केयरफुल पढ़ने की जरूरत रहेगी तो इन अ वे दैट विल बी अ पार्ट ऑफ स्किमिंग बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू सॉल्विंग क्वेश्चंस इट कम्स टू सेविंग टाइम का मतलब होगा कि रिग्रेस करने की जरूरत ना पड़े उसके लिए मुझे स्मार्ट रीडिंग की जरूरत है सो व्हाट आई रिकमेंड इज दैट यू रीड द एंटायर पैसेज एक मेंटल मैप बना लीजिए पैसेज का और पैसेज को अगर आप फर्स्ट हैंड ही अच्छे से पढ़ लेंगे तो इट बिकम्स very easy to solve those questions because you carry that passage towards the end of the questions. तो आपको वो passage याद रहेगा उसका context याद रहेगा हाँ एक या दो questions में जो fact based रहेंगे वो inference करने को बोल सकते हैं fact से या what is the author trying to imply वाला question रह सकता है उसके लिए आप वापस passage में जाइए वो particular जहाँ mention आया है उसको देखिए. So this particular VMTC 2268 wasn't all that difficult. It was in the moderate one, and it would have been quite easy if you had done smart reading. Fine. Now, when I talk about smart reading, I'm talking about the comprehension part of it. Read the passage and then go to the questions. If you are looking at vocabulary based questions and you think vocabulary is your strength, then scan for that word. Look at the way it has been used in the sentence and mark your answer. Fine. Coming to this particular thing, smart reading ki baat hui. And then another thing that was required is that you needed to do the intra-sectional ranking of the passages. Always remember that start from the easiest passage and then go up the difficulty ladder. Okay? सबसे पहले easiest passage. Now, when I say easiest passage, frankly speaking, it does not mean the size of the passage. It actually stands for the topic of the passage. अगर वो topic आपका पहले का पढ़ा हुआ है, it becomes very easy for me to read quickly, to comprehend completely और अगर मेरी comprehension complete है तो मुझे question solve करना बड़ा easy हो जाता है. So you need to understand this particular equation when it comes to solving this particular section. Now, frankly speaking, ideally speaking, 25 anyway 25 above score can be considered excellent. आज का जो था आप VMTC 2268 उसमें अगर आप 20 के आसपास लेके आते तो that would have been excellent. Fine. Now let's go on. If I look at intra-sectional sequencing की कौन सा पहले करना है तो it depends on your familiarity with the topic. So there is one particular topic that we have discussed a lot in our classes, that would be the passage 3. So I would start with passage 3 first, right? सबसे पहला आ गया passage 3. इसके बाद देखते हैं तो passage 2 और passage 4 are of equal level. If you think that medicine or biology is your strength, next you can put passage 2. और अगर आपको लगता है कि आप क्योंकि इस टाइप के मैनेजमेंट रिलेटेड, सेल्स, एडवर्टाइजिंग, मार्केटिंग रिलेटेड अगर पैसेजेस बहुत पढ़ चुके हैं तो देन यू कैन सॉल्व पैसेज 4. सो दीज टू विल बी एट द second rank. Then comes, okay, P2 I am doing first, then I'll be doing P4, तो ये मेरी ranking हो गई. Then comes your other 3 passages. So if I look at it, passage 3, even though if you just start with the first line, it may seem as if it is talking about philosophy, but the further you read on, बीच का एक दो अगर sentence पढ़ते हैं, तो it is quite clear it is on education system, and this is again something that we have read a lot and solved a lot in our classroom session. So I'll put then passage 1. Then come the last 2 passages, which are basically philosophy. It's actually literature, but it is more of philosophy in literature. 2 books को compare किया हुआ है, उसके बारे में discussion हुआ है. And the last one is on psychology, which is talking about understanding people's behavior. So you can put them at equal rank. जो भी आप जल्दी solve कर पाएंगे. So I'll put passage 5, and in the end I'll attempt passage 6. Now this is called smartness. ठीक है, आप एक स्ट्रैटेजी लेके सारे जगह नहीं अप्लाई कर सकते हैं. You have to have 2-3 strategies in mind depending on the kind of passages I get. ठीक है, अगर आज का ये अगर आपको मॉक डिफिकल्ट लग रहा है तो आपकी स्ट्रैटेजी डिफरेंट होगी. अगर आपके पास इस टाइप का इंग्लिश सेक्शन आ गया जिसमें फैक्ट बेस बहुत ज्यादा है, उसमें आपके डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चंस ज्यादा है, तो स्ट्रैटेजी डिफर करेगी. सो इट्स ऑल अबाउट स्ट्रैटेजाइजिंग, and trust me, nothing is going to help you solve it more accurately, help you comprehend the passage completely as reading smartly. रीडिंग स्मार्टली में आ जाता है आपका व्हाट इज द पैसेज ऑन, what is the author saying about this particular passage, what does the author feel about this particular topic, and at the most what you can do is how that author has expressed his ideas. This is a part of smart reading. Now coming on to today's handout, let's look at it. We are starting with passage 3 first. So it's passage 3, 2, 4, 1, 5, 6. So going to passage 3. Okay. Now if I look at it, it is definitely a current affairs topic, contemporary है. हाल फिलहाल का ही हुआ है. इस चीज पे अभी काफी it's like a lot of controversy or a lot of debate going on everywhere when it comes to this particular topic. Fine. Now if I look at this particular passage and the questions that are there, so it's asking about inference. First passage. Second is inference. थर्ड इज आस्किंग द एटीट्यूड ऑफ द ऑथर, वो भी इन्फर करने के बाद हुआ. देन 14th इज पार्शियल इन्फ्रेंस वाला पार्ट है, एंड 15 इज अ वोकैबुलरी क्वेश्चन. राइट, अब जहां मेरे को दिख गया है कि सारे इन्फ्रेंस वाले हैं, इट पेज इफ आई रीड द पैसेज कंप्लीटली, उसको समझ लू मैं, इजी रहेगा. ठीक है. नाउ you have gone through the passage. So if I look at it, it starts with the population, the education status among a particular community in the country, and there are certain things, statements that has been given by Mr. Sudhanshu Trivedi, and then of course एक point के बाद then the author is expressing what he thinks about it, right? So अगर यहाँ तक देते, त्रिवेदी contrasted this literacy की बात हो गई, ओवैसी mumbled at this. अब आगे देखते हैं. So it starts from here that not that looking at the failed state of Pakistan today provides any comfort in Owaisi's defense. For long, the likes of Owaisi were and still are assisted by those political parties that feed off Muslim vote banks. The posing involves, तो example दिया है कैसे ये posing हो रही है. This may still be working to an extent, but for how long more? Birth rates amongst Muslim will not return a Muslim majority state even in the whole of this century. Pockets of concentration will not make for an overall picture. The politics of regional pride, gender, and blatant populist grants will not do the trick nationally. But if anything, it is the broad thinking Hindu way that is garnering the admiration of the international community, including those Muslims in Arabia, Africa, and the Asia Pacific. These Muslims are not carrying the cross of conversion. Carrying the cross, ये बड़ा important हो जाता है मुझे समझने के लिए कि carry the cross का meaning क्या हो सकता है. मेरी comprehension और deep हो जाएगी. They have a clear sense of their birth identity and are not confused by having been converted from Hinduism under the Islamic sword. It is dawning on the more discerning followers and inheritors of Abrahamic religions that their temporal history is undeniably soaked in blood. This has bred widespread atheism and agnosticism in the West. तो अब बेसिकली अब्राहमिक रिलीजन्स कौन रहेंगे? जो वेस्ट के रिलीजन से, क्योंकि उनको पता चला है कि उनका रिलीजन खून से सना हुआ है और ये कह रहा है इसके कारण ये एथिज्म और एग्नोस्टिसिज्म की तरफ जा रहे हैं. With many people finding themselves in church only when they are dead in a coffin. It is true that only the Hindu religion and some of its spin-offs have no backstory of conquest, domestic or foreign, except for the sporadic resistance. So basically no backstory of conquest except sporadic resistance, right? Resistance हुआ है to the Mughal aggrandizement. This is providing a natural attraction for people who want depth and wisdom of the oldest religion in the world that has survived every attempt to wipe it out. So if I look at this particular aspect of it, so author यहाँ पे, if I look at it, what is he talking about? Frankly speaking, it starts off with what is the level of education in a particular community, and then goes on to it's kind of stressing on how Hinduism has garnered attraction and why Hinduism has become the focus for people to come and find meaning to their life and so on and so forth. So that is the crux of this particular passage. So इतना पढ़ लोगे आप और इतना इसको समझ लोगे तो it becomes quite easy for me to answer the questions. So let's look at the questions. The first says, now another thing that is going to help is if I can understand what the question is asking me to focus on. So if I look at the question number 11, which is saying that which among the following can be inferred from the passage as the reason behind the lack of education in the Muslim community in India. So the question is pretty specific. It is talking about the reason for the lack of education in the Muslim community in India. Specific हो जाता है ये, right? और ये जो reason है ये infer किया जा सकता है. Fine. So let's look at the options. A says the Indian Muslim community is unable to take the initiative in arranging for the same level of educational facilities. नीचे कहीं पैसेज में कहीं भी एजुकेशनल फैसिलिटीज के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात नहीं हुई है, ना इसको कहीं से भी उन ऑथर ने हिंट किया हुआ है. सो दिस कैन नॉट बी द रीजन. इट्स फ्रॉम द पैसेज से इन्फर करना है, इसका कहीं भी इन्फ्रेंस नहीं मिलेगा. सो आई एलिमिनेट ऑप्शन ए. Option B says Indian Muslims don't have a clear sense of birth in a Muslim community, as they feel they have been converted from Hindus, which generates an animosity towards education provided by Hindus. यहाँ कहीं भी education कौन provide कर रहा है, हिंदू कर रहा है कि मुस्लिम कर रहा है कि सिख कर रहा है, वो context नहीं दिया गया. And if I look at this, that clear sense of birth in a Muslim community वाली बात हुई है, that is more for, if I go to the passage, this is more in context of this. These Muslims are not carrying the cross of conversion. ये हुआ है कि ये attract कर रहा है admiration इन लोगों का. ठीक है. सो इसको रीजन नहीं बनाया है या ऑथर ने इसको इस तरीके से नहीं पोर्ट्रे किया है कि सिंस दे डोंट हैव अ क्लियर सेंस ऑफ आइडेंटिटी और बर्थ, दैट इज द रीजन एजुकेशन नहीं हुआ है. दिस इज वेरी स्पेसिफिक टू certain people who don't have that sense of conversion वाले वो एडमायर कर रहे हैं, वो कन्वे करने के लिए यूज किया है. ये रीजन नहीं है जिसके की कारण एजुकेशन नहीं मिल रहा है इंडियन मुस्लिम्स को. तो ये वाला ऑप्शन भी गलत हो गया. बाकी बचता सी और डी. सो नन ऑफ द अबव है, तो लेट्स लुक एट सी. Political leaders have exploited the Muslim vote bank with shallow promises but have not extended any real educational facility towards the community. Now, this is something that I can infer, and since I can infer it, it is in the context of why this particular community has has been deprived of, or rather has not got that the same level of education. This will be my answer. Going to the passage. देखो यहाँ पे बोला है, this is where it starts off. I'm highlighting it for your convenience. So says that okay. In a recent TV event in New Delhi, BJP's Sudhanshu Trivedi pointed out to the gymnast and extremely vocal AIM Supremo Asauddin Owaisi that only 2% of Indian Muslims from amongst 15% of the population were educated. This is down from 24% at independence. Trivedi contrasted this illiteracy and consequent lack of contribution to the nation's progress with that of the Parsis, who constitute a dwindling 0.1% of the population. Owaisi mumbled that the educated and privileged Muslims went to Pakistan at partition. He did not answer why 7 decades since independence have not produced educated Muslims, while almost every other community stands in contrast to this. Not that looking at the failed state of Pakistan today provides any comfort in Owaisi's defense. मतलब Owaisi को defend नहीं करेगा looking at the state Pakistan is in. For long, the likes of Owaisi were and still are assisted by those political parties that feed off Muslim vote banks. The posing involves laying of chadars and the reciting of namaz at mosque, wearing clothes echoing those of common Muslims, such as caps, black waistcoats, and white chudidars. The shameless shunning of sindoor amongst the visible women of the household. The craven photo ops with bearded Maulvis and Molanas. This may still be working to an extent, but for how long more? राइट. सो हियर लाइज माय आंसर. ओवैसी का जवाब, ओवैसी को क्वेश्चन पूछा गया कि इंडिपेंडेंस के यू नो व्हाट कि पार्टीशन के टाइम पे जो कम्युनिटी थी उनमें तो इम्प्रूवमेंट है, इसमें नहीं है. तो ओवैसी रिप्लाइड दैट्स बिकॉज द एजुकेटेड लेफ्ट. अब उसके पीछे का देखा, अगर ये रीजन तो ऑथर ने डिनाई कर दिया है कि इसको तो मैं डिफेंड भी नहीं कर पाऊंगा, और उसके आगे चल के रीजन दिया है कि क्यों नहीं कर पाए ये, बिकॉज ऑफ as you know vote bank politics का context दिया. They have specified that political parties feed off Muslim vote banks. तो ये सारी हरकतें कर रहे हैं. क्या हरकतें कर रहे हैं? पोज करते हैं, चादर चढ़ाएंगे, नमाज को रिसाइट करेंगे, कॉमन मुस्लिम जो पहनते हैं वो कपड़े पहन के दिखाएंगे, राइट. एंड जो पॉलिटिशियंस हैं जो मोस्टली एक दूसरी कम्युनिटी को बिलोंग करते, जो सिंदूर पहनते हैं, उन्होंने सिंदूर पहनना बंद कर दिया है. एंड देन फोटो सेशंस वगैरह करा रहे हैं. सो इट इज सेइंग दिस में स्टिल बी वर्किंग टू एन एक्सटेंट, बट फॉर हाउ लॉन्ग? So this is what the author has said. This is what we can infer from the passage is the reason why the Muslims have not got the kind of education that the other communities have. दूसरी कम्युनिटी को उन्होंने वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के लिए यूज नहीं किया. यहाँ पे स्पेसिफिक रेफरेंस आया है पारसीज को. I never seen a political party, talking of appeasement politics for Parsis. यहाँ पे एक ही चीज हो रही है और एक ही उसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में वो पॉलिटिशियंस या वोट बैंक्स का कॉन्टेक्स्ट आया है. Hence, answer is going to be C. I hope that is clear now. Let's go to the next one, which is talking about what can be inferred from the passage as the reason for people in the West turning agnostic or atheist. The reason for people in the West turning agnostic or atheist. और agnostic और atheist का meaning नहीं पता है तो उसका आप easily infer कर सकते हो, right? ये कह रहा है यहाँ पे. It is following on the more discerning followers and inheritors of Abrahamic religions that their temporal history is undeniably soaked in blood. This has bred widespread atheism and agnosticism in the West, with many people finding themselves in church only when they are dead or in a coffin for the funeral service. It is true that only the Hindu religion and some of its spin-offs have no back history of conquest, domestic or foreign, except for the sporadic resistance. This is providing a natural attraction for people who want the depth and wisdom of the oldest religion in the world that has survived every attempt to wipe it out. Fine. Now, going to the question. Okay. This is the thing. Now, मिल गया है. Inferred from the passage as the reason for people in the West. The higher level of technological advancement in the West. ये कहीं भी mention नहीं है, ना तो उसको कहीं से भी infer कर सकते हैं. तो option A eliminate हो गया. B says people in the West realizing and regretting the improved past of monotheistic religions such as Judaism, Christianity and Islam. ये जो तीन religions हैं, ये अब्राहमिक रिलीजन्स है. अब्राहमिक रिलीजन विल बी ऐसा रिलीजन जो अब्राहम के डिसेंडेंट्स फॉलो कर रहे हैं. सो ये रिलीजन होंगे आपकी क्रिश्चियनिटी, जुडाइज्म जो कि ज्यूज फॉलो करते हैं, इस्लाम. और ये सारे के सारे मोनोथीस्टिक है. मोनोथीस्टिक मतलब देयर इज ओनली वन गॉड. वी आर पॉलीथीस्टिक. पॉलीथीज्म, पैंथीज्म, हमारे यहाँ तो कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ पैंथीज्म है. वी वर्शिप एवरीथिंग, राइट. सो ये मोनोथीस्टिक इज विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू द अब्राहमिक रिलीजन. अब इतना आपका जनरल नॉलेज तो रहेगा कि अब्राहमिक रिलीजन्स क्या होते हैं. द रिलीजन्स that have evolved from Abraham that will make it into Christianity, Judaism and your Islam. ठीक. So this seems to be imbrued past of monotheistic. Imbrued मतलब क्या होगा? Now this is where vocabulary pays. है ना. बेसिकली ऐसा पास जो कि टेंटेड है, दाग धब्बा लगा हुआ है, जो कि मेंशन्ड है, ब्लड सोक्ड वाला कॉन्टेक्स्ट आया. सो दिस is my answer, but I still need to eliminate other options. So let's look at it. Mathematicians and physicists coming up with theories of disproving. नहीं, कहीं भी मेंशन नहीं है, ना ही इन्फर कर सकते हो. The apotheosis of Hinduism in the West, making the people question the validity of Christianity. Now it's not about validity of Christianity. यहाँ पे वैलिडिटी के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में नहीं आई है. उनको पता है कि वो रिलीजन ब्लड सोक्ड है, तो आइदर दे आर क्वेश्चनिंग देयर रिलीजन, राइट, बट दे आर बेसिकली क्वेश्चनिंग द वैलिडिटी ऑफ रिलीजन. नहीं, पूरा का पूरा रिलीजन को ही क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं, या वो एथीस्ट बन गए हैं, नास्तिक बन गए हैं. सो दिस एन एपोथियोसिस ऑफ हिंदुइज्म इन द वेस्ट नहीं है. अब हो रहा है जैसे कि लोग इसकी हिंदुइज्म की तरफ फेस कर रहे हैं. सो द रियलाइजेशन इज दैट the first that will come is the realization that the religion is blood soaked, and that is a reason they are looking at Hinduism. अगर ये आप ऑप्शन देखते तो इसका मतलब है क्योंकि हिंदुइज्म अच्छा है इसलिए वो लोग क्रिश्चियनिटी को क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं. ये गलत हो जाएगा. Hence answer is going to be B. Fine, I hope that you got that correct. And frankly speaking, this passage is not difficult. It was all about smart reading. Again, I'll reiterate that smart reading here means that you understand or comprehend everything that the author is saying and not saying by writing those lines or saying by not writing those lines directly. So this is what is smart reading, reading in between the lines. So this is how I solve it. Okay? Now, let's go to the next question. Which of the following best expresses the attitude of the author in the passage? Now, critical. Okay, chalo options eliminate kar sakte. Critical can be, or the answer. Many of you may have chosen this as your answer. Inspirational है नहीं, facetious है नहीं. वैसे facetious is when I treat a very serious matter with inappropriate humor. तो ये कहीं भी ह्यूमर का कॉन्टेक्स्ट है नहीं. बाकी बचता है मेरे पास ए और डी. नाउ ए seems like it because the author has started off by saying that Sudhanshu Trivedi की बात दी है, right? Now, yes, he is basically criticizing the vote bank politics. I do agree. But the question comes ki, is that all that the author is doing? And the second question is that the focus of author? Criticism. या वो क्रिटिसाइज करके अपना कोई और एक पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू देने की कोशिश कर रहा है ना. दिस इज वेयर यू नीड टू डू योर स्मार्ट थिंकिंग. सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन होना चाहिए, क्या ऑथर यहाँ पे सिर्फ क्रिटिसाइज करने के लिए बैठा हुआ है, कहीं कुछ और बोला ही नहीं है? बोला है. क्या बोला है? he has gone on to say how Hinduism is getting appreciation, how people are turning towards Hinduism. तो उसके पीछे की अच्छी उसने रीजनिंग दी है, रीजंस दिए है, आर्ग्यूमेंट्स दिए अपने उस पर्टिकुलर पॉइंट को सपोर्ट करने के लिए. सो आई कैन नॉट से दैट द एंटायर पैसेज इज अ क्रिटिसिज्म. शुरुआत वाज अ क्रिटिसिज्म, बट दैट वाज द ग्राउंड वर्क. वो वहां पे उसका वो बेसिस तैयार कर रहा था एंड टुवर्ड्स द एंड आते आते ही हैज बिकम assertive. Assertive is basically when you confidently say something. आप में जो वो confidence से कोई चीज बोलते हो, right? Knowing that you are right in saying that, that is assertive. Hence, that is your answer. Going on to the next one. Now, this was a very tricky question. I would say the question was not tricky, the options were tricky. Now, number one, it is talking about argument used by the author. ठीक है, इसको ब्रेक डाउन कर रहे हैं. कभी भी इस टाइप का क्वेश्चन आता है जिसमें कि आपको कंफ्यूजन हो रहा है तो ब्रेक इट डाउन. सो द फर्स्ट ब्रेक आई एम डूइंग इज आर्ग्यूमेंट यूज्ड बाय द ऑथर. क्या कर रहा है? टू थॉट, दैट इज टू स्टॉप द आइडिया दैट the lack of education in the Muslim community is because of the immigration of educated Muslims to Pakistan. तो स्पेसिफिक हो गया है. ऑथर जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट दे रहा है ये स्पेसिफिक है टू द इमिग्रेशन ऑफ एजुकेटेड मुस्लिम टू पाकिस्तान. ये जो है दिस इज द कॉज फॉर द लैक ऑफ एजुकेशन इन द मुस्लिम कम्युनिटी. Right? The author has made this the cause for the lack of education in the Muslim community. अब इस चीज को गलत ठहरा रहा है. ठीक है, उसने आर्ग्यूमेंट्स यूज किए हैं एंड द अबव ऑल क्वेश्चन कम्स कौन सा नहीं यूज किया है. So which of the following has not been used as an argument by the author? To do what? To defeat the thought or to defeat the idea that there is lack of education in Muslim community because educated Muslims have gone to Pakistan. ठीक है, क्लियर हुआ? ब्रेक इट डाउन. जब भी आपको इस टाइप के कंफ्यूजिंग क्वेश्चन आते हैं जो कि इस तरीके से फ्रेम किए गए हैं, सो नॉट यूज्ड, यस. व्हाट नॉट यूज्ड? Argument, right? So let me go and make it all the more simpler. Not used by author to stop the idea of poor education of Muslims is because of immigration of educated Muslim to Pakistan. So number one, we are looking at to stop the idea. तो ऑथर इस आइडिया को स्टॉप कर रहा है क्या? क्या कि ये एजुकेशन ये लोग इसलिए ये कम्युनिटी इसलिए एजुकेटेड नहीं है क्योंकि एजुकेटेड मुस्लिम्स माइग्रेट कर गए पाकिस्तान को, राइट? एंड आ रहा है नाउ नॉट यूज्ड टू स्टॉप. So let's look at it. One says it's been 70 years since partition, which was enough to produce educated people in the Muslim community. Can this be an idea or an argument that the author has not used to stop the idea that the lack of education in the Muslim community is because of immigration of educated? ये part है. तो नहीं है. He has not used this in that context. हटा दिया. The other religious communities affected by partition all have progressed much higher than the Muslim communities. हाँ, उन्होंने पारसी का एग्जाम्पल देके किया है. So he has used this to negate that particular thought. Pakistan's situation of educated people in the community is not much different from Indian Muslims' progress in the department. Now, क्या ये इस particular statement को support करेगा कि नहीं? अपने को चाहिए यहाँ पे thwart the idea and not using it to thwart the idea, right? तो ये भी जो है author ने use किया है, hence answer is going to be C, 1 and 3. I hope that is clear. ये ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन था. इसको अगर आप सिंपल पार्ट्स में ब्रेक कर दोगे तो इट्स वेरी इजी बिकॉज इट्स समथिंग दैट यू कैन infer directly from the passage. Going to the next question, 15th one. Sporadic के context में बात हुई है and sporadic resistance की बात हुई थी, तो that will mean something that was not continuous but बीच बीच में होता था. So answer will be remitting. Intermittent, you know this meaning. Desultory is something that is not steady, constant नहीं है. Intervallic is again something that is not continuous. So that is your answer. So far we have solved 5 questions, right? Now, कंफ्यूजन के बेसिस पे आपका जो 14th क्वेश्चन है वो मान लेते हैं इनकरेक्ट होता, बट बाकी के जो क्वेश्चंस हैं इंक्लूडिंग टोन, इट वाज प्रिटी इजी. आपको टोन के लिए याद रखना है, यू नीड ऑलवेज नीड टू आस्क व्हाट इज द पैसेज ऑन, व्हाट हैज द ऑथर सेड अबाउट इट एंड व्हाट डज द ऑथर फील अबाउट इट. सो यहाँ पे अगर बात करेंगे तो फोकस किस पे है? क्रिटिसाइजिंग द लैक ऑफ एजुकेशन और taking that as a basis to convey how Hinduism is the answer or everybody is looking at Hinduism for the answer. That is where I get smart. इसको कहेंगे स्मार्ट रीडिंग. आप सिर्फ एक चीज पे अटक गए, आगे का नहीं देखा ऑथर कहां लेके जा रहा उस पर्टिकुलर चीज को, उस पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक को, तो आपके आंसर्स गलत होंगे. सो यू हैव सॉल्व्ड 5. एट द मोस्ट एक्सेप्टेबल इज 3 on 5, 4 on 5. डाउट था आपने छोड़ा. नंबर 1 छोड़ना नहीं है. यू नीड टू इंक्रीज योर अटेम्प्ट्स एंड एज फार एज पॉसिबल व्हेन इट कम्स टू क्लैट यू नीड टू अटेम्प्ट ऑल 30. ठीक है, तो देन इन दैट केस अगर किसी ने नहीं किया है तो 4 on 4 और 3 on 4 is acceptable so far. Fine. Now let's go to passage 2. Now passage 2 देखेंगे. It is definitely देखते हैं. Let's look at इसको कैसे ब्रेक डाउन कर सकते हैं. Okay. People who use marijuana have an increased risk of heart disease and heart attack, according to a large study led by researchers at Stanford Medicine. The study also showed that the psychoactive component of the drug known as THC causes inflammation in endothelial cells that line the interior of blood vessels as well as atherosclerosis in laboratory mice. The inflammation and atherosclerosis can be blocked by a small molecule, but it doesn't inhibit THC's ability to stimulate. These are the characteristics that are vital to medicinal marijuana users. As more states legalize use of it, could have cardiovascular side effects, said Joseph Wu, MD, PhD, Professor of Cardiovascular Medicine and of Radiology, and the Director of Stanford Cardiovascular Institute. Then comes on how genicine works. Then in part explanation आया using words as tetrahydrocannabinol. Okay, control system, regulatory on cardiovascular system, instructor of medicine, Mark Shaddy, MD, PhD. See a rise in heart attacks and strokes in coming years. TCH exposure initiates a damaging molecular cascade in blood vessels. It is not a benign drug. Who holds the Simon H. Sturzer MD professorship is the senior author of the study, which will be published online 2019 Cell. Chandy shares lead authorship with former postdoctoral scholar Zhu Tang, B. PhD, and instructor Masataka Nishiga MD. अब देख लो, ये स्मार्ट रीडिंग है. ऑथर ने क्या किया है, ऑथर ने जो स्टडी हुई है उसके डिटेल्स दिए हैं कि क्या स्टडी हुई है और स्टडी के फाइंडिंग्स क्या है. दिस इज माय स्मार्ट रीडिंग. रीडिंग इन बिटवीन द लाइंस. अगर रीडिंग इन बिटवीन द लाइंस नहीं किया, लिटरल किया, तो भी हो रहा है. स्टार्टेड ऑफ सेइंग दैट जो मैरिजुआना यूज करते हैं उनके कार्डियोवास्कुलर डिजीज होने के बड़े हाई चांसेस हैं. दैट विल इंक्लूड वेरियस टाइप्स ऑफ हार्ट डिजीज इंक्लूडिंग हार्ट अटैक. ठीक. अब ये स्टडी किसने की है? दे हैव मेंशन्ड, ये जितनी भी स्टडी है दिस हैज बीन डन बाय डॉक्टर्स, और सारा का सारा जो स्टडी का फाइंडिंग्स है दैट हैज बीन कोटेड बाय डॉक्टर्स. ऑथर ने सिर्फ वो स्टडी ली है और यहां पे उसने रखी हुई है. फाइन. नाउ लेट्स लुक एट द क्वेश्चंस. Which of the following does not represent one of the functions of marijuana as mentioned in the passage? Okay. अब देखो, यहां पे आता है मेरा आंसर. Characteristics vital to medicinal marijuana users. ये आ रहा है ability to stimulate appetite, dull pain, tamp down nausea. Dull pain मतलब पेन को कम करना, nausea को कम करना. ठीक है. Stimulate appetite. ठीक है. Now come to this part. Voracity means extreme hunger. वोरेशियस रीडर जो बड़े इसके हंग्रीली बुक पढ़ता है. ठीक है. तो वोरासिटी हियर स्टैंड्स फॉर ग्रीडी वाला हंगर. मेंशन्ड है. हाँ, मेंशन्ड है. दिस कैन नॉट बी माय आंसर देन बिकॉज इट्स आस्किंग अस नॉट रिप्रेजेंट. एनाल्जेसिक. एनाल्जेसिक इज समथिंग दैट रिड्यूसेस पेन. तो पैसेज में डल पेन वाला आया है. ये मेरा आंसर नहीं हो सकता है. Proclivity is inclination towards anything. So let's look. Remitted quamishness. Quamishness is that feeling of nausea. और remittance का मतलब होता है reduce करना. तो ये भी mentioned है. तो ये भी आंसर नहीं होगा. What is left is proclivity. It is not one of the characteristics or functions or results of marijuana users. Marijuana का characteristic feature, something that causes it. That means उसका one of the functions हो गया. So answer is going to be proclivity. 7th. Now, the attitude of the author. Now, what has the author done? Has the author described the passage? चलो, मान लेते डिस्क्रिप्शन लग रहा है. एनालिसिस किए क्या ऑथर ने? ऑथर ने कहीं भी उस स्टडी के प्रोज एंड कॉन्स देखे हैं, उसके एडवांटेजेस या डिसएडवांटेजेस देखा है, अपना कोई ओपिनियन दिया है क्या ऑथर ने? नहीं दिया है. सो एनालिटिकल नहीं है. आर्ग्यूमेंटेटिव. ऑथर कहीं भी अपने स्टैंड को प्रूव करने की कोशिश कर रहा है? ऑथर का कोई पर्सनल स्टैंड है? नहीं है. सो डी भी नहीं हो सकता. व्हाट इज लेफ्ट इज ए एंड बी. Now the point is the author describing the study or has the author given the study as it has been done? ऐसे के ऐसे दिया है. देख लो. According to a large study led by The study also showed, the researchers found, said Joseph Wu. ये भी said Joseph Wu ही है. ये आया मार्क चैंडी. सो यहाँ पे ऑथर ने खुद कहाँ कुछ कहा है या खुद कहाँ कुछ एक्सप्लेन करने की कोशिश की है? नहीं है. Hence answer is going to be expository. Expository is basically a formal essay. तो ऑथर ने जो भी पढ़ा है उसको ऐसे के ऐसे लेके एंड टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑथर ने सिर्फ इतना मेंशन किया है. Right? The only thing I'll say, the author has said, this part, which will be published online April 29 in Cell. That's it. ये स्टडी है और ये सीनियर ऑथर है और उसके साथ ये को ऑथर है और ये स्टडी जो है जो कि ऑथर ने यहाँ मेंशन की है ये पब्लिश होगी. किसमें पब्लिश होगी? ये एक मेडिकल जर्नल लग रहा है, सेल. Right? So this is something, is it number one contains all technical terms, something that is going to be comprehensible only to a person who has that particular background in terms of training or knowledge. Right? Hence it is expository. Number two, अगर आपने expository को expose के context में लिया है कि वो किसी चीज को expose कर रहा है तो नहीं, उसके लिए मेरा वर्ड होगा exposing. Expository is actually explanatory. Now the question comes, what is the difference between explanatory and expository? So expository is in a very formal technical language. It is aimed at people, at peers. Peers का मतलब होगा at people who have similar training. A person who is familiar with that industry. इसमें ज्यादातर jargons वगैरह यूज किए जाते हैं. While explanatory जो common रहेगा, that will be focused on explaining something to a layman or a person who's not an expert in that particular field. Hence, answer is expository. Never confuse the attitude or tone expository with exposing something. No, ये दोनों similar synonymous words नहीं है. Be careful, please. Going on to the next one. Which among the following is or are true as per the passage? Fine. Now let's look at it. One says soy and fava beans reduce the risk of heart attack in marijuana users by interacting with THC and thereby diminishing its effect on the body. Let's go back to the passage. Okay. Let's look at this part. Green. I'm using the color green. The inflammation and atherosclerosis can be blocked by a small molecule called genistein that occurs naturally in soy and fava beans. Because genistein has limited brain penetration, it doesn't inhibit. Doesn't inhibit मतलब वो नहीं रोकता है THC को या THC को नहीं रोक पाता है. तो बेसिकली ये कहाँ ये इनहिबिट करेगा ही नहीं, तो ये डिमिनिश नहीं करने वाला है. हेंस दिस इज नॉट ट्रू. आई एलिमिनेट दिस ऑप्शन. The new study finds medicinal marijuana to have a lower risk of causing heart attack than recreational drugs. यहाँ पे तो कहीं भी वो मेंशन नहीं आया. इट्स टॉकिंग अबाउट मैरिजुआना एज सच. ये देखो. As more states legalize marijuana use, I expect we'll begin to see a rise in heart attacks and strokes in the coming years. तो बेसिकली यहाँ पे मेडिसिनल, अगर आपको ये पर्टिकुलर देख रहा है, सो इफ आई लुक एट इट, इट सेज दैट, देखो यहाँ पे भी कहा है, recreational use of marijuana users need to be aware that it could have cardiovascular side effects. But genistein works quite well to mitigate marijuana-induced damage of endothelial vessels without blocking the effects marijuana has on the central nervous system. And it could be a way for medical marijuana users to protect themselves from a cardiovascular standpoint. Could be a way. It has not been proven that it is a way. फाइन्स नहीं किया है अभी तक फाइन. दिस इज नॉट समथिंग आई कैन इन्फर. तो ये भी फॉल्स ही है. Then comes researchers need more free access to tetrahydrocannabinol in order to have better understanding of the long-term effects of marijuana on the body. अब ये mention आया है THC. So let's look at this. ये देखो. In part because THC or tetrahydrocannabinol is a controlled substance in the US and therefore strictly regulated in medical research. The investigators cautioned that the long-term effects of regular use remain largely unclear. So basically, इससे मैं ये इन्फर कर सकती हूँ कि रिसर्चर्स नीड मोर फ्री एक्सेस टू टेट्राहाइड्रोकैनाबिनॉल. नहीं मिल रहा है, वो रेस्ट्रिक्टेड है उसका यूज. उसके लॉन्ग टर्म इफेक्ट्स जो है वो तब तक पता नहीं कर सकते रिसर्चर्स जब तक इनको ये एक्सेस नहीं मिलता है. सो दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज ट्रू एज पर द पैसेज. हेंस आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी डी. दिस वॉज अ ट्रिकी वन बट नॉट अ डिफिकल्ट वन. ये अगर शांति से सॉल्व करते, स्मार्ट रीडिंग करते तो इजी हो जाता. Let's look at the ninth one. Which of the following can be the central idea of the passage? Is it consequences of marijuana consumption? क्या हर टाइप के consequence की बात हुई है? चलो मान लेते हैं आपने ये लिखा. The ramification of marijuana and extenuation of them. एक्सटेन्यूएट का मतलब है टू रिड्यूस द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस ऑफ दैट. तो ये नहीं है, ये इजीली एलिमिनेट कर सकते हैं. द लाइकलीहुड ऑफ कार्डियोवास्कुलर कॉम्प्लिकेशंस एसोसिएटेड विथ marijuana एंड अ पैलिएशन ऑफ इट. पॉसिबिलिटी है. So I'll keep this and this. The details of the new study conducted by researchers at Stanford Medicine. This is too general. This is not focusing on what is actually the study about, जो कि passage में mentioned है. तो D भी गया. तो बाकी बचता है A and C. Now, is it in broad all the consequences, or this particular study is focused just on the heart and heart related complications? शुरुआत में ही हुआ है स्टडी कार्डियोवास्कुलर और हार्ट मैरिजुआना यूजर्स के चांसेस क्या है टू हैव हार्ट डिजीजेस एंड हार्ट अटैक. हेंस आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी सी. दिस इज अगेन एन इजी वन, इतना डिफिकल्ट नहीं है. And the 10th one says, our studies of human cells and mice clearly outline how THC exposure initiates a damaging molecular cascade in the blood vessels. यहां पे जो आंसर करने वाला है वो ये वर्ड करने वाला है, कैस्केड. कैस्केड इज बेसिकली waterfall. waterfall, not water trickle, waterfall, जिसको हिंदी में दूसरा वर्ड यूज किया जाता है दबदबा. इट्स लाइक ह्यूज वॉल्यूम्स ऑफ वाटर falling down a steep incline. उससे जो दनादन पानी गिरने वाला उसको कहेंगे कैस्केड. अगर कैस्केड को देखना है तो कैस्केड इज एक्चुअली वन ऑफ द वाटरफॉल्स इन अ सीरीज ऑफ वाटरफॉल्स. अगर आप बारिश में कहीं भी माउंटेनस रीजन में जाते तो यू सी दैट इफ देयर इज वेरी हेवी रेनफॉल होता है उसी टाइम पे जनरली वाटर फॉल्स मिलते हैं. सो इट्स अगर आपके पास इस टाइप का देयर इज दिस पर्टिकुलर माउंटेन, then there is a slight slope, then it goes on, then it goes on. तो ये जो रहेगा, ये एक हो गया, दूसरा हो गया, तीसरा हो गया. These are my cascades. A waterfall in a series of waterfall. और यहाँ पे क्या बात हो रही है ना, molecular cascade, damaging molecular cascade in the blood vessels. तो ये धुआंधार, दबदबा, uncontrolled fall, अनकंट्रोल्ड रिजल्ट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात हो रही है. तो एलिटरेशन तो है नहीं. दिस वाज एन इजी ऑप्शन टू एलिमिनेट. अगर यहाँ पे ये कैस्केड वाटरफॉल विथ ह्यूज वॉल्यूम्स के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में आया तो अंडरस्टेटमेंट भी नहीं है. Then I have the word synecdoche. तो synecdoche is when I use a related term to signify the whole or a related term to signify a part. So when I say wheels, I mean the car. When I say bench, I mean the judges or the jury and so on. तो यहाँ पे कहीं भी synecdoche यूज हुई नहीं है. Eliminated. What is left is hyperbole. What is hyperbole? Hyperbole is basically, a word that is used to exaggerate to create the impact or effect. तो यहाँ पे जो कैस्केड है, ये ब्लड वेसल्स में कहाँ कैस्केड होगा? क्या आपकी ब्लड वेसल्स इतनी बड़ी रहती है कि उसमें इतने ह्यूज फोर्स एंड वॉल्यूम से कोई चीज गिर सकती है? नहीं, ब्लड वेसल्स की बात हो रही है. They can be anywhere from microscopic to normal veins that you can see at the back of your hands and all. These are all your blood vessels and veins. सो यहाँ पे कैस्केड जो है ये एग्जैजरेट करके बताया गया है जिससे कि वो जो marijuana है उसका इम्पैक्ट समझा सके. Hence answer is going to be hyperbole. So frankly speaking we have finished solving 10. 10 में से स्कोप बनता है 2 या 3 रॉन्ग होने का. तो आइडियली स्पीकिंग योर स्कोर शुड बी समवेयर अराउंड 7 on 10. बेस्ट वुड बी 10 on 10, which I doubt, क्योंकि इसके वाले ऑप्शन में सुधांशु त्रिवेदी वाले ऑप्शन में एक क्वेश्चन घुमा के लिखा था जो कि आई एम श्योर यू गॉट trapped in that particular question and couldn't get that right. Or I can say 7 on 8, 7 on 9, and so on. You get where this is going. Now, the next passage that I would have solved is passage 4. So let's go to passage 4. Okay. Let's ask the question. What is the passage on? The passage is on women. Absolutely. The passage is on women. क्या बोल रहा है? Women represent a growth market bigger than China and India combined. Female consumer. Now you need to understand ये जो study है that is done by the Boston Consulting Group. Boston Consulting Group ये बेसिक नॉलेज या जनरल अवेयरनेस की बात है. इट्स अ यूएस बेस्ड कंसल्टिंग ग्रुप. इट्स अ मार्केट रिसर्च कंपनी. Undervalued in marketplace and underestimated in workplace. Fine. Few companies without any articles mean almost none have responded the need for time saving solutions of products and services designed specifically for them. तो ये एग्जाम्पल आ गया. Companies continue considering. So we identified 6 basic archetypes among our respondents. Despite its limitations, such segmentation is useful in informing the development and marketing of companies' offerings. So there you go. It was very simple, yet difficult nahi tha. Smart reading will get you anywhere. Smart reading will help you solve any passage. So what is the passage on? The passage is on women. What does the author say about it? That you need to women consumers जो है उनको आप टारगेट करिए because there is a great potential. एंड बाकी की जो चीजें दी गई है ऑथर इसी पॉइंट को कन्वे करने के लिए यूज कर रहा है. सो लेट्स गो टू द क्वेश्चन. सो द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन आई हैव, व्हिच ऑफ द फॉलोइंग कैन बी सेड एज द मेन पर्पस of the passage? So what does the author want to do with this particular passage? Main purpose क्या है? वो ये बोलना चाहता है ना कि फीमेल्स हैं, they're a very big potential, but जो कंपनीज हैं ना तो उनको टारगेट करती है सेलिंग या एडवर्टाइजिंग के लिए, ना ही उनको टारगेट करती है मार्केटिंग के लिए. मार्केटिंग वुड मीन प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट एज वेल. तो कंपनीज जो है इनको नहीं ध्यान में रखती है. दैट इज व्हाट वी जस्ट डिस्कस्ड. आई जस्ट हाईलाइटेड सर्टेन पोर्शंस टू मेक द पॉइंट क्लियर कि क्या मेन आइडिया मेंशन कर रहा है और क्यों कर रहा है. दे बोथ हैव बीन कवर्ड ऑलरेडी. सो लेट्स लुक एट द ऑप्शंस. Option says to raise awareness about the fact that women in the US make the purchase decision for the majority of big industries. Is that the main reason why the author has written this passage ki ye batane ke liye they are the main purchase decisions? नहीं, वो तो ये बताने के लिए किया है कि उनको टारगेट करिए आप, तो ये एलिमिनेट हो गया. B says to raise awareness about the fact that women are the biggest consumers of the big league products in the US and so they should be targeted. ये है, this is what is mentioning. I'll keep this, but see if that is my answer by eliminating other options. C says to raise awareness about the fact that companies often get marketing wrong and stereotypical, even when they're thinking they are encompassing. नहीं, अब कंपनीज कर नहीं रहे हैं, उनको करना चाहिए. That is what the part is. तो आपका सी भी एलिमिनेट हो गया. D says to raise awareness about the fact that products made by most companies in the US exclude women from their consideration, especially when product doesn't fit the perception of the society towards females. No, that is again not the main purpose. The author wants that women are such a big potential that these companies should target women when it comes to product development and services. Hence, answer is going to be B. DB eliminate ho gaya. So you need to understand that this passage is from women's point of view. It is not from company's point of view. The author is looking at women. उनके point of view की बात कर रहा, फिर वो solution offer कर रहा है companies को. उल्टा नहीं है वो. Now going on to the 17th one, let's look at it. Which among the following is not a reason cited in the passage by the author why female should be paid more heed to? तो फीमेल को ज्यादा ध्यान क्यों देना चाहिए? इसका कौन सा रीजन नहीं है? Females constitute the majority of consumers in the US, yet companies exclude their needs in making products. Mentioned है, हाँ mentioned है, so this cannot be my answer. Companies rarely target female customers in their marketing campaigns, and when they do, they get it wrong and stereotypical. Is it mentioned? Yes, it is mentioned. She says females feel deprived when it comes to the representation and opportunities for them in the market as well as workplace. Seems like it. Let's look at D. Even after all the talks about equal opportunities and many females breaking the glass ceiling, women on average are still underpaid in many industries. यहाँ पे कहीं भी पेमेंट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात नहीं हुई है. अंडर एस्टिमेटेड जरूर बोला है, बट पेमेंट के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बात नहीं हुई है. सो आंसर विल बी डी. कैन दिस इन्फर फ्रॉम एनीवेयर? यस, आई कैन. गो बैक टू द पैसेज. There you go. It says that undervalued in the marketplace and underestimated in the workplace. Companies continue to offer them poorly conceived product and services and outdated marketing narratives. There you go, you get that. Stereotypical ये कार के context में आ गया है आपका. Narratives that female stereotypes. So this is something all three can be inferred. So there you go. Answer ये mentioned है, ये mentioned है, और ये mentioned है. So answer is going to be D. It's not a reason. Not mentioned. 18th one. What can be inferred about the purpose of the categorization of female consumers mentioned in the passage? तो ये इन्होंने जो you know 5-6 आर्कीटाइप्स बनाए हुए हैं, तो बेसिकली उन्होंने कैटेगरी बनाई है. तो उन्होंने ये पर्टिकुलर कैटेगरी किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में बनाई है या क्यों बनाई है? So let's look at it. To create divisions in the female workforce and make discriminatory. ये तो ऐसे ही eliminate हो रहा है. Yes, it's not looking at female workforce and making discriminatory decisions. To make stereotypical decisions about marketing and development of products. नहीं, इस चीज को तो author कर रहा है, नहीं करना चाहिए. So this cannot be my answer. C says to have a better idea about the user persona, user profile जिसको कहेंगे, of the targeted female audience for developing and marketing a product. Seems like it. Let's look at D. To have a better idea about the products that cater towards specific female consumers currently circulating in the market. तो बेसिकली सर्क्यूलेटिंग इन द मार्केट नहीं है, वो तो कह रहा है कि नए प्रोडक्ट्स बनाओ जो कि फीमेल कंज्यूमर्स को सूट करते हैं, उनके हिसाब से बने हैं. तो ये भी नहीं होगा. सो आंसर इज सी. Why has been a category or why have they been categorized? ये देखो. Such segmentation is useful in informing the development and marketing of company offerings. Not specific female consumer, but overall that particular segment of female consumers. Chalo. 19th. Which of the following represents the contextual meaning of the word archetype? अगर इसको आप पैसेज में जहां यूज हुआ है वहां देखते हैं तो इट सेज दैट we identified 6 basic archetypes among our respondents. These types, which are primarily defined by income, age, stage of life, are क्या है? Fast tracker, pressure cooker, relationship focused, managing on our own, fulfilling empty nesters, and making ends meet. तो इसमें इन्होंने एक प्रोफाइल बनाया हुआ है, राइट, जिससे कि उनको टारगेट कर सके. So an ancient perspective which we have acquired from and which lives in our subconscious, nahi. A fairly standard illustration of someone or something, yes. Category of women who are old, नहीं. ये आर्कीटाइप वो सारे कैटेगरी के लिए ही यूज हुआ है, तो सी नहीं होगा. हाँ, एक इलस्ट्रेशन या स्टैंडर्ड जरूर बना लिया है जिससे कि पता चल सके कि किसको किस चीज की जरूरत रह सकती है. Hence a fairly standard illustration, example of someone or something. चलो, गोइंग ऑन टू द 20th वन. व्हाट इज द टोन ऑफ द ऑथर? अगर देखते हैं तो ऑथर फ्रस्ट्रेटेड नहीं है. क्या ऑथर कंसर्न्ड है? क्या ऑथर क्रिटिकल है? क्या कि ऑथर परसुएसिव है? सो लेट्स गो बैक टू द पैसेज. नाउ अगेन द क्वेश्चन कम्स, व्हाट इज द passage on, what is the author focusing on? It is focusing on women consumers. What does the author say about women consumers? That they are not targeted well by the companies. They should be targeted for product development as well as for advertisement, right? तो अब यहाँ पे बात करते हैं, क्या ऑथर का फोकस कंपनी है कि कंपनियां नहीं कर रही है? क्या ऑथर का फोकस है विमेन कंज्यूमर्स की पे कि उनको टारगेट करना चाहिए? इफ आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस, आई विल बी एबल टू आंसर दिस क्वेश्चन करेक्टली. So frankly speaking, even though you feel that the passage is on criticizing the companies, that is not the focus of the author. So this cannot be my answer. Concern नहीं है कि क्या होगा, क्या हो रहा, वरिड वाला नहीं है, परसुएसिव है. और ये क्या परसुएट कर रहा? वो कह रहा है कि फीमेल कंज्यूमर्स इतने ज्यादा है कि अब कंपनीज को इनको टारगेट करना चाहिए, एंड ही हैज गिवन रीजंस फॉर दैट. So basically, he is persuading the companies by giving certain aspects of female consumers that will prove very beneficial to the companies. Hence, answer is persuasive. Fine, I hope you got that correct. Tone based question galat hone nahi chahiye because we have done a lot of practice. Any case, let's go to the next passage, that is passage 1. पढ़ के लगा था फर्स्ट सेंटेंस पढ़ोगे तो आपको लगेगा कुछ और ही बात हो रही है. अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट, फाइनेंशियल इनसिक्योरिटी एंड प्रिकेरियस फ्यूचर्स वेयर ऑथोरिटेरियन लीडर्स प्रोवोक सपोर्टर्स टू फॉर्म विजिलेंटे मॉब्स. व्हाट अ विजिलेंटे, इसको पढ़ना जरूरी है. विजिलेंटे व्हाट, मॉरल पुलिस के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में यूज होता है, ठीक है. डिजिटल एंड रियल टू डिस्ट्रॉय इमेजिन्ड एनिमीज. बट आगे चल के देखते हैं, इट इज बेसिकली टॉकिंग अबाउट द एजुकेशन सिस्टम. रोट लर्निंग सिस्टम है विच लीड्स टू पुअर अंडरस्टैंडिंग ऑफ सोशल एंड पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज. There is no grasp, there is no way that people understand how caste discrimination operates in the real world. There is little understanding that unemployment is because of factors such as the state of economy and increasing automation. So if I look at it, it is talking about education, है ना? Lack of education. So let's look at the questions. Which among the following statements about the Indian education system is or are false? Right? One says that the Indian education system puts intake of knowledge over information. Excuse me, please. Now, it puts intake of knowledge over information नहीं, यहाँ पे तो rote learning के context में बात हुई है, तो this is false, right? This is false. The Indian education system focuses on marks and degree above all. हाँ mentioned है, so this is true. This is false. In the Indian education system, merit competes against reservations. ये भी according to the passage is false. So hence answer will be 1 and 3. Answer is C. ये difficult नहीं है, ये direct आपको passage में मिल जाएगा. और passage भी difficult नहीं है, it is pretty contemporary. Second, which of the following can be a synonym of the word farcical except? Now let's look at farcical. Farcical and irrational social logic. तो अगर irrational के पहले and है and उसके पहले farcical है, that means it is not going to have a positive meaning, right? It becomes easy for me. अगर ये context समझ लूं तो बड़ा easy हो जाएगा मुझे solve करना. So let's look at the options then. So ludicrous is again a negative word. This stands for ridiculous. So this is in a way synonym. तो ये answer होगा नहीं. Then I come to diverting. Diverting is something that is amusing, funny. तो ये भी negative हो गया. तो this is going to be a synonym. Contumelious is basically scornful. Scornful मतलब mocking के context में. Scornful is basically yeah, arrogance के context में use होगा. And derisive is ridiculing something. तो वो ridiculous के context में ही आया. So this cannot be. This is a synonym again. Hence, this cannot be my answer. Answer is C. Contumelious. That is scornful. Fine, let's go to the next one. Question number 3. Which among the following is not an issue? अब आगे resulting from a faulty education in India. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे है पैसेज में faulty education जो इंडिया की है उसके results बताए गए हैं. क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है इन दिए गए ऑप्शंस में से कौन सा वो रिजल्ट नहीं है. सो लेट्स लुक एट the questions. A say perceived right to take offense at trivial matters and spew hatred and threats mentioned here. This cannot be my answer. Half knowledge or a lack of knowledge regarding socio-political issues leading to false assumptions mentioned here. This cannot be my answer. C says a strong belief that disagreements and opposition can only be countered with acrimony and rampage. ये भी mentioned है. That means D is my answer. यहाँ कहीं भी mention नहीं है कि जो brilliant minds है या brilliant लोग जो है वो दूसरे फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड कंट्रीज मतलब डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज को माइग्रेट कर रहे हैं जिसके की कारण इकोनॉमी में डिक्लाइन हो रहा है, नहीं, दिस इज नॉट एन इश्यू mentioned in the passage at all, hence answer is going to be D. Let's go to the next one. Question number 4. What is the central theme? It is on the Indian education system. Definitely yes. और ये सारे के सारे जो passages, sorry, options हैं Indian education की बात कर रहे हैं, right? Indian education, Indian education, Indian education, Indian education. So इसके basis पे तो eliminate नहीं कर पाऊंगी मैं, सारे Indian education के हैं. So let's look at what each option is saying with respect to this particular Indian education. Okay. How Indian education is focused on rote learning is ruining Indians. Is it talking about just rote learning? मान लेते चलो. We'll keep this option. How Indian education is focused on rote learning is producing misguided youth. ये भी लग रहा है. Let's look at. We'll keep this. C says how Indian education is focused on rote learning is curtailing the emergence of geniuses. Curtailing मतलब stopping. तो यहाँ पे कहीं भी emergence of geniuses के context में बात नहीं हुई है. So eliminate option C. Option D says focus on rote learning is destroying the economy. Economy के context में बात नहीं हुई है. So what is left is A and B. अब ऐसे दो ऑप्शंस मेरे पास क्लोज आ जाते हैं तो यू कैन रिग्रेस एंड लुक एट द कॉन्टेक्स्ट. सो इज इट रूइनिंग इंडियंस और इज इट प्रोड्यूसिंग मिसगाइडेड यूथ? So we live in times when those stepping into adulthood are likely to face this, right? For this group to grasp, कौन से ग्रुप की बात हो रही है? It started off by introducing कि ये किसके बारे में बात कर रहा है. We are looking at those stepping into adulthood. So there, the focus here is on youth. It is not on all Indians, but it is on youth. Hence, answer to this question is going to be B. Not whole of Indians, but youth. Chalo, let's go to the next one, which is asking to identify the tone of the author in the passage. What is the author now? Again, ये tone जो है मेरा central idea के basis पे निकालूंगी. What is it? It's on Indian education system. Is the author positive, negative, or neutral about it? He is negative about it. In which way is he negative? Is he disgusted, nauseated with it? No. Is he frustrated? Literal sense में तो frustrated नहीं है. Frustrated means angry वाला context नहीं आ रहा. Pessimistic कुछ नहीं हो सकता वाला hopelessness का भी context नहीं है. Answer is censurable. Censurable is strong criticism. So he has strongly criticized कि rote learning के कारण ये सब problem हो रहे हैं. So answer is B. Now let's go to the next one. The next in line will be passage 5. Frankly speaking, passage 5 was pretty simple actually. इसको simplify करने का इस यहाँ पे आती है smart reading. तो smart reading को करने का तरीका होता है Again, three questions: what is the passage on, what is the author saying on, and what does he feel about it. ठीक है? If Pandora's opening of the jar let out all of the evils, so they went roaming around the world, surely it would make more sense to let hope out too, so it could go out into the world and counter them. Keeping hope locked up in the jar is a bit like infecting the atmosphere with a deadly virus and locking the antidote up in a drawer somewhere. Surely the antidote should be out there in the world making people better. But one way to resolve this apparent inconsistency is to say that the jar represents humankind's control over things, and whilst they cannot control the ills of the world, once they have been let out into the world, they can keep hope alive inside. Whereas to let that out too would be to see it dissipated, disappear dhire dhire, and dissolved into air. But was hope really the last thing left in Pandora's box? The word Hesiod use is elpis, which can mean hope, but it is often also translated as meaning expectation. Despite the similar meanings of the two words, they are, after all, not precise synonyms. So it may be that expectation rather than hope was the last thing left in the box. The myth of Pandora's box is very much the fall of man's story for the ancient Greeks. The pagan equivalent of the story of Adam and Eve's expulsion from the Garden of Eden in the book of Genesis. Consider just a few similarities between the two tales. Both stories share a number of key features. They are both about how evil comes into the world where it was previously unknown. They both attempt to explain why a man must work for a living rather than sit about enjoying himself. They are both about the dangers of curiosity or seeking to know too much, and they both lay the blame for letting the evil into the world squarely and somewhat unfairly at the feet of the first created woman, either Pandora or Eve. Now we need to understand that the author had said somewhat unfairly. So let's go to the question. Which of the following can be considered as the central idea of the passage? So A says Greek myths often created stories to show how the women were unintelligent and gullible. तो ये तो कहीं भी mention नहीं आया. I eliminate option A. Greek myths often created stories to explain and justify how women were at the origin of all the evil in the world. लग रहा है, mentioned है. C says Greek myths often created stories to show how women could lead men towards utter destruction. Utter destruction की बात भी नहीं हुई है. Eliminated. D says the stories in Greek myths that often talked about the lives of gods in heaven suspiciously resembled. यहाँ कहीं भी gods in heaven वाला context नहीं आया. Hence answer is going to be B. Not difficult. Neither the passage is difficult to read or difficult to understand, nor are the questions difficult to solve. Now, number one, you need to understand that जब हम CLAT में लैंग्वेज सेक्शन की बात कर रहे हैं और उसका नाम इंग्लिश दिया गया है, द क्वेश्चन इज नॉट ऑन इंग्लिश, द क्वेश्चन इज ऑन रीजनिंग. ये सारे के सारे क्वेश्चंस जो है वो रीजनिंग पे बेस्ड है. सो स्टॉप लुकिंग एट इट एज इफ इट इज एमए का या बीए का इंग्लिश का पेपर आया. नहीं, ये एक रीजनिंग का पेपर है. This is all about reasoning. Chalo, let's go to the next one. 22nd. As per the passage, which of the following is or are true? So let's look at it. Hope represents a panacea for the evil that is now. Ye though that is out in the world hai, that has been used for the evil. Can I infer it? Yes, I can. कहां से infer कर रहे? Let's go out to the passage. देखो, why would the author otherwise say? It would make more sense to let hope out too, so it could go out in the world and counter them. So basically, according to the author, हाँ, hope जो है ये evil को counter कर सकता है. So first is something that is true. Second says hope may actually be out in the world along with other evils as per the original Greek myth. नहीं है ना? Pandora let everything out except hope. That is what been mentioned. तो ये नहीं है. And third is say hope is enough to combat Okay, here comes your part. Now, if I look at यहाँ से आपका जो है that is looking at similarity between two different myths. Now, if I look at this particular thing and look at the option that has been given, hope may actually be out in the world along with other evils as per the original Greek myth. हाँ, this is something that is true because it is saying that once the Pandora opened its box, everything went out. Evil भी गया हुआ है. आगे चल के फिर उसको ये ऑथर का डिनायल निकल रहा है. So this is again true. Then third is hope. Hope is enough to combat all the evils in the world as per Greek mythology. Agar it is capable of combating all the evils of the world, then why would the author say that it will disappear, it will dissipate and dissolve in the air? इसका मतलब है it cannot do that. Hence, third is something that cannot be inferred. Hope is enough to combat. If hope were enough, then the author wouldn't say that it will dissipate and dissolve into air. मतलब वो खत्म हो जाएगा. नहीं है. So this is something that cannot be then. But author does say that hope may actually be. may आया, is नहीं यूज किया. ऑथर ने कहा है may actually be out in the world along with other evils. Why? Because when Pandora opened box, everything came out. आगे चल के फिर उसने उस चीज को डिनाई किया. नाउ किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में किया, दैट बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट एज वेल. देखो, it is worth thinking about the end of the myth and the idea that hope is the last thing remaining in Pandora's box. This actually makes what seems like a clear and powerful myth somewhat muddled. He is questioning it. यहाँ पे question किया गया है. Hence, I'll have to take this as true. Fine. Going to the next one, which among the following can be a suitable antonym for muddled? Muddled is basically confusing. So discombobulated is confusing. Delineated is differentiated very clearly. So this is my antonym. Snarled, traffic, jam, matlab that is again something that is muddled, confusing. Disencumbered is again a synonymous word to that. Hence, answer is going to be delineated. Next one, the author compared literatures of Pandora's box and the fall of man to show what? Women villainous? Yes. Women were the reason for the fall of men? Yes. Women were the perpetrators of evil? Yes. Hence, answer is going to be all of the above. Look at the last 3-4 lines of the passage, and it becomes clear that this is my answer. 25th, which of the following best expresses the attitude of the author? Now, what is the author's attitude? Is he argumentative? नहीं, वो तो बेसिकली उसको काफी रिफ्लेक्टिवली देख रहा है. He is reflecting on all those aspects of it. He is not trying to, put forward that my point of view is the only one. So this cannot be my answer. Is he persuading us? No. Narrative? Not really. So what is left is critical. Why is he critical? Critical के लिए देखो वो क्या कह रहा है. Muddled, questioning everything, questioning this. And then looking at this aspect of it, कि क्या है सारे women के लिए कर रहे हैं, and then he is saying unfairly. So he is basically criticizing those myths as well as when compared it to the fall of man, उसको भी वो criticize ही कर रहा है. Hence answer is going to be critical. Fine. Now we have solved 25 questions. Let's assume that you have solved so far say 22 or 23 questions. अगर 22 आपने solve किए हैं तो आपके इसमें से correct होने चाहिए कम से कम 19 से लेके 20. 23 करें हैं तो यहां से आपके कम से कम correct होने चाहिए. Sorry, this should be somewhere around 18 to 20. And this is somewhere 19 to 20 correct होने चाहिए. That is the time you'll be able to score enough in English language and the other sections to get a call from NLU. Going to the last passage, अगर देखते हैं the trick again smart reading करते हैं इसकी पहले, and let's see what is this passage on. You are unlikely to take a sympathetic look, but then you come out, you might try to gain some insight, reflect on it. Question kar raha hai, is it because of unusually difficult childhood? The paper provides an important reminder of the need to get more than a snapshot of anyone you're trying to understand, including yourself. So this is basically an important reminder. ये पेपर में जो डिस्कस हुआ है तो बेसिकली आप किसी ने आपके साथ ऐसे बिहेव किया तो basically the author is asking you to look at it in context of sympathy. Find out the reason why that person has behaved, and he has taken an example of narcissism. So let's go look at the questions and solve them. 26 is asking us the question, which among the following can be inferred from the passage as traits to look for to detect a narcissist? The in short traits of a narcissist. Let's see. If a narcissist feels his or her self-esteem is about to be in jeopardy, danger, they may go into a vulnerable phase to invoke one's sympathy. Mentioned hai? हाँ, mentioned hai. A narcissist needs everything to be about him and her and constantly draws attention towards them either overtly or covertly. हाँ, क्योंकि वो एग्जाम्पल दिया है कि यू वर फोकसिंग मोर ऑन फैमिली एंड नॉट योर ex, and that is how he got angry. For a courtship period, a narcissist is exceedingly good at imitating the ideal image of a partner. We do not know that. ये कहीं से भी आप infer नहीं कर सकते हो. Hence answer 1 is true, 2 is true. Hence answer is going to be 1 and 2. Again, let me remind you, the passage was not difficult. ये difficult नहीं है समझने में. Smartly पढ़िए, comprehend करिए. It's very easy. Going to the next one, 27th. What is the primary purpose? So author ने क्या लिखा है end में? It is a reminder कि understand करो. It starts with looking with sympathy and finding out the reason why people behave the way they do. So let's look at it. Okay, to draw attention to the fact that overinflated ego of a narcissist is a self-preservation technique for their usually low self-esteem possibility. To draw attention to the fact that the majority of narcissists are a product of difficult childhood so that we can understand them better. Not really, that could be one of the reasons, but it is not the primary purpose. ऑथर इस पे फोकस करने को नहीं बोला, रादर इस पे फोकस नहीं है. आई कैन एलिमिनेट दिस ऑप्शन. Don't fall into just two categories, grandiose and vulnerable. There are more gray areas in between. Mention नहीं है, ना ही infer कर सकती हूँ. So I eliminate this. So C eliminated, B eliminated. What's left is A and D. He says to draw attention to the fact that every person, including narcissist, is more than what they seem on the surface, and it's important to see that depth instead of presuming. Oh, first line, आखिरी line is summing up the reason why he has given the example of narcissist. Sympathetic look से देखो, शुरुआत में नहीं देख पाओगे, आगे रिफ्लेक्ट करो उसने ऐसे क्यों बिहेव किया, इसके पीछे रीजन क्या हो सकता है. This is something that is going to help you understand yourself as well. So answer is going to be D and not A. Next one is we are to look for a word that is not a synonym of thwart. Right? Answer is going to be circumvent. Scuttle, thwart. Trammel is to thwart. Impediments के context में use होता है. Dane को भी उसी context में use किया जाता है. जबकि circumvent is to find a way around an obstacle. जब आप किसी भी चीज को avoid कर लेते हो, उस ऑब्स्टिकल को अवॉइड करते हो, दैट इज कॉल्ड सर्कमवेंटिंग. हेंस आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी डी. 29th, which of the following can be inferred from the passage? Let's say a narcissist may act out with physical violence when they feel that their self-esteem is नहीं, दो ही बताया ना, vulnerability और grandiose. There is just two reaction that they give. तो A eliminate हो गया. B says a narcissist may become antagonistic if they feel that their sense of superiority is not being supported. हाँ, passage से infer किया जा सकता है, but let's look at other option. May block all channels of communication if they sense an imminent situation. नहीं, they'll behave either vulnerable sympathy लेने के लिए, grandiose superior दिखाने के लिए. तो ये basically गलत हो जाएगा according to passage. He says may feel threatened when the partner shows potential to outperform or outgrow them. We do not know that. यहाँ पे नार्सिसिज्म का जो कॉन्टेक्स्ट वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ अटेंशन के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में दिया गया है, तो डी कैन नॉट बी माई आंसर, हेंस आंसर इज बी. Well, where do I get this from? ये रहा. Leading to outward expressions of hostility to those who thwart their efforts to feel superior. Directly mentioned. Now, let's go to the last question. 30th. What is the tone of the passage? अब it comes down कि ऑथर का पर्पस क्या था ये लिखने में. तो ऑथर का पर्पस था कि हम किसी को भी हार्शली जज ना करें, हम जो हैं उनके बिहेवियर के पीछे का रीजन समझने की कोशिश करें. तो कॉन्फ्लिक्टेड तो है नहीं, क्रिटिकल है नहीं, एट द मोस्ट परसुएसिव एंड कंपैशनेट है. नाउ इज ही ट्राइंग टू परसुएड यू? If I look at whatever examples he has given, he has stated them as fact. तो परसुएशन का कम है, वो ऑथर का एटीट्यूड जो है उसने लिखा है उसको लेके, दैट इज काइंड, मर्सीफुल, बीइंग सिंपैथेटिक वाला कॉन्टेक्स्ट आ रहा है. हेंस आंसर इज गोइंग टू बी डी. So if we finish solving this entire sheet, we have analyzed each question, we have seen how to solve them. So 30 questions in all the. Frankly speaking, when it comes to CLAT, try and attempt all 30 questions. अगर ऐसा कोई पैसेज है जो समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा तो वो मत सॉल्व करिए. डोंट रिस्क दैट. दोज विल बी 5 to 7 क्वेश्चंस, उनको रिस्क नहीं करना है. बट इफ दे आर डूएबल एंड इफ यू आर एबल टू come down to 2 options, you can take a risk and mark 1. चलो, अगर मान लेते हैं कि आपने एक पैसेज नहीं सॉल्व किया, इट कुड आइदर बी द पैंडोरास बॉक्स और इट कुड बी द नार्सिसिज्म. वैसे दोनों इजी थे, डायरेक्ट आंसर्स मिल जाते. सो दैट कम्स डाउन टू से यू हैव सॉल्व 25 क्वेश्चंस. ठीक है. अब 25 क्वेश्चंस में इफ यू कैन मैनेज टू स्कोर एनीवेयर इन दिस पर्टिकुलर, VMTC की बात हो रही है, इस पर्टिकुलर इस सेक्शन में अगर आप anywhere from 20 to 23 स्कोर कर लेते, so that is an excellent score. Anywhere from 18 to 20 will be in the category of good. But when it comes to actual CLAT, it should be somewhere around 25 to get calls from the top law colleges. ठीक है. Now, this is basically a sheet that was to show you how tough CLAT can get. Okay, it is just an example to show you how कितना टफ भी आया तो कितना टफ आ सकता है. फ्रैंकली स्पीकिंग, आखिरी के 2 पैसेजेस छोड़ दें, बाकी के जो 4 पैसेजेस है, they were on the easy category. All you needed to do was read, prioritize them, sequence बनाइए और आप उसको सॉल्व करिए. They were not difficult, they were easy to comprehend. हाँ, एक जरूर क्वेश्चन था वो हिंदुइज्म के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, जहां पे कंफ्यूजिंग ऑप्शन था, वो एक गलत हो सकता है, बट रेस्ट ऑफ देम वर प्रिटी इजी. So we are looking at working on getting all kinds of passages correct. So till the time I see you next and we discuss another, I wish you all the best. Keep practicing and keep doing well. Thank you.